The storage unit smelled of cardboard and regret. Row after row of identical orange doors stretched down the concrete corridor, each one concealing someone's abandoned dreams or postponed decisions. Unit 247 belonged to Jennifer Morrison now, though she'd never wanted it. She stood in the doorway at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday in November, her daughter Lily pressed against her side, both of them staring at the jumbled contents of her grandmother's life packed into a 10 by 10 space that cost $127 a month they couldn't afford. The funeral had been 3 weeks ago. Small, quiet, attended by exactly 7 people in a chapel that could hold 200. Her grandmother, Dorothy Chen, had outlived most of her friends and all of her siblings. At 94, she'd simply gone to sleep one night in the assisted living facility and hadn't woken up. The doctor called it peaceful. Jennifer called it lonely. Now she had 30 days to clear the unit before the facility stopped paying the rental fee and the contents became the property of Storage Solutions, LLC. 30 days to sort through 9 decades of accumulation. 30 days while working 2 part-time jobs and raising an 8-year-old alone. "Mom, what's all this stuff?" Lily asked, her voice echoing in the metal corridor. "Grandma Dorothy's things. We need to see if there's anything worth keeping." Worth keeping. The phrase tasted bitter. Everything had been worth keeping to Dorothy, apparently. Boxes labeled in shaky handwriting. Kitchen items 1978. Christmas decorations. Robert clothes. Jennifer's father, dead now for 15 years, reduced to a box in a storage unit. They stepped inside and the motion sensor light flickered on, revealing the archaeological layers of a long life. Furniture from the 1960s. Its upholstery sun-faded and mouse-chewed. Stacks of National Geographic dating back to 1953. A television set with a curved screen and wood paneling. Suitcases held shut with rope. And boxes, dozens of boxes, their contents unknown. "Can we keep this?" Lily held up a porcelain cat with a chipped ear. "We don't have rooms, sweetie." Their apartment was 650 square feet. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that could barely contain 2 people. Jennifer paid $1,850 a month for it, which was somehow considered affordable in this market. After rent, utilities, food, and Lily's school expenses, she had approximately $43 left each month. Last month, she'd had to choose between fixing the car's brake light and buying Lily new shoes. The shoes had won. The brake light ticket had cost $125. She began opening boxes with the systematic desperation of someone hoping to find value, but expecting junk. The first contained tablecloths, yellowed with age, smelling of mothballs. The second held photograph albums, their plastic pages stuck together, images of people she didn't recognize frozen in Kodachrome. Lily explored with a child's curiosity, pulling items from boxes and creating her own organizational system that made sense only to her. She found a jewelry box on a shelf and brought it to her mother with both hands, treating it like something precious. "Look how pretty!" The box was wooden, about the size of shoebox, with an inlaid floral design on the lid. Mother of pearl caught the fluorescent light, creating small rainbows. The craftsmanship was beautiful, intricate, suggesting quality from an era when objects were made to last rather than replaced. Jennifer took it expecting weight, but finding it surprisingly light. The hinges creaked when she opened it. Inside lay the kind of jewelry her grandmother had worn. Costume pieces mostly. A string of fake pearls with a broken clasp. Clip-on earrings set with glass stones that pretended to be rubies. A brooch shaped like a butterfly, its wings tarnished. A few bangles, thin and scratched. Nothing valuable. Nothing worth the space it occupied. Her sister Melissa's voice echoed in her memory from the funeral reception. "I'm not dealing with her stuff, Jenny. You were always her favorite anyway. You handle it." Favorite. The word had stung because it was true and because favoritism from Dorothy Chen had never translated into anything useful. Her grandmother had loved her, yes, but Dorothy had been poor her whole life, working as a seamstress until arthritis made holding needles impossible. There was no inheritance coming, no hidden wealth, just boxes of junk and a jewelry box full of fake gems. "Can I have the pearls?" Lily asked. They're broken, sweetie. I can fix them. Mrs. Rodriguez taught us about jewelry in art class. Jennifer handed over the pearls, watching her daughter examine the broken strand with the seriousness of a jeweler assessing diamonds. At 8, Lily still believed in fixing things. Jennifer, at 34, had learned that most broken things stayed broken. They worked through the morning, Jennifer making 3 piles: keep, donate, trash. The key pile remained depressingly small. A few photo albums, a quilt Dorothy had made, a set of china that was intact enough to sell on Craigslist. Maybe $50 worth. By noon, her back ached and dust coated her throat. They broke for lunch, sitting on the concrete floor of the unit, eating sandwiches Jennifer had packed from home. Peanut butter and store-brand jelly on bread from the day-old rack. Lily ate without complaint. She'd learned not to ask for things they couldn't afford. Did you know Grandma Dorothy? Lily asked between bites. Not as well as I should have. She was always kind of quiet, kept to herself. Mom says you were her favorite. Aunt Melissa said that. Doesn't mean it was true, but it had been true. Dorothy had always smiled differently when Jennifer visited, had always asked about her life with genuine interest. After Jennifer's divorce 3 years ago, Dorothy had sent cards every month with $20 bills tucked inside and notes that said, "For something special." $20 that Jennifer had immediately spent on groceries or gas, never on anything special. The afternoon blurred into more boxes, more junk, more evidence of a life that had accumulated possessions as some kind of bulwark against loneliness. Jennifer found Dorothy's wedding dress, yellowed and moth-eaten. Her grandmother's husband, Chen Wei, had died in 1989. Dorothy had lived alone for 35 years after that. Around 3 p.m., Jennifer's phone buzzed with a text from her manager at the grocery store where she worked part-time. "Can you cover Maria's shift tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.? She texted back yes, before even checking if she had childcare. She always said yes. Saying no meant fewer shifts next week. Lily had continued playing with the jewelry box, arranging and rearranging the costume pieces, creating stories about each one. This ring belonged to a princess who lost her castle. These earrings belonged to a spy who had to hide her identity. That's nice, honey. Mom, there's something weird about this box. Jennifer looked up from a box of old tax returns that Dorothy had apparently saved going back to 1967. What's weird? It's too light. Like there should be more stuff in it. Children notice things adults overlooked. Jennifer took the box back, weighing it in her hands. Lily was right. The box felt hollow in a way that didn't match its exterior dimensions. She examined it more carefully. The interior was lined with red velvet, faded and worn. The compartments seemed shallow. She measured with her fingers. The inside depth didn't match the outside height. There was a gap of at least 2 inches. Her heart rate picked up slightly. False bottoms in jewelry boxes weren't unheard of. People hid things. Important papers. Emergency cash. Maybe Dorothy had squirreled away a few $100s. Maybe even 1,000. That would help. That would make this whole exhausting day worth it. She pressed on the velvet lining, feeling for a release mechanism. Nothing. She tried the corners, the edges, running her fingernail along the seams. Still nothing. "Let me try," Lily said. Jennifer handed it over, watching her daughter examine the box with the methodical patience of someone who hadn't yet learned to hurry. Lily tilted it, held it to the light, shook it gently. "There!" She pointed to one of the mother-of-pearl inlays on the interior lid. "That one's slightly different." Jennifer looked. The piece Lily indicated sat just slightly proud of the surface, maybe a millimeter higher than the others. She pressed it. Click. The sound was small but distinct. The bottom of the jewelry box shifted, releasing with a soft pop. Lily's eyes went wide. Jennifer lifted the false bottom carefully, her hands suddenly unsteady. Beneath it lay a second compartment, deeper than the first, and it wasn't empty. Inside were papers, documents carefully folded and preserved in plastic sleeves. And jewelry. Real jewelry. Even Jennifer's untrained eye could tell the difference immediately. These pieces didn't have the cheap brightness of costume jewelry. They glowed with the deeper luster of real gold, real stones. She lifted out the first piece with shaking hands. A necklace, heavy, set with stones that caught the light and threw it back in colors that seemed almost liquid. The gold was warm, substantial, real. Mom, Lily's voice was small. Is that real? I think so. Jennifer's heart hammered against her ribs. She set the necklace down and examined the other pieces. A ring with a stone so large it seemed vulgar. Earrings that matched the necklace. A bracelet composed of interlocking pieces, each set with smaller stones. All of it felt real. All of it felt valuable. But the documents, those might be even more important. She pulled out the first plastic sleeve and unfolded the paper inside. It was a certificate of authenticity from Cartier, dated 1948. The necklace she'd just removed. Collier drapery, platinum, 147 carats diamonds, rubies, and emeralds. Commissioned by, the name had been redacted, crossed out with black ink so thoroughly it was unreadable. Her hands shook harder. She pulled out another document, another certificate, another piece that matched the contents of the hidden compartment. Christie's, 1952. Van Cleef and Arpels, 1945. Bulgari, 1950. The numbers swam. Carat weights that seemed impossible. Designer names she recognized, even though she'd never owned anything more expensive than a $40 watch from Target. The last document was different. A letter, handwritten in Chinese characters she couldn't read, dated 1949. And beneath it, a translation typed on aged paper. My dearest daughter, by the time you read this, I will be gone, and you will have grown into a woman I will never know. I write this from Hong Kong, where I wait for passage to America. I do not know if I will survive the journey. I do not know what America holds. But I cannot take these with me. They are too dangerous, too visible. They would ask questions I cannot answer. I leave them in your father's care. If you find this, know that each piece carries a story I can never tell you. They were payment for things I will not speak of. They were earned through means I am not proud of. But they are yours by right of blood. Sell them if you must. Keep them if you dare. But know that they come with history that might be best forgotten. Your mother, Lin Mei Chun, April 1949. Jennifer read it twice, then a third time, then looked at Lily, who was holding the necklace up to the light, watching rainbows dance across the storage unit walls. Dorothy had never mentioned her mother, had never spoken about China, had never given any indication that she'd come from anything other than the poverty Jennifer had always associated with her grandmother's life. She picked up her phone with trembling hands and typed into Google, Cartier necklace 147 carats 1948. The search returned results immediately. Auction records, museum catalog entries, articles about jewelry history. She clicked on an auction record from Sotheby's, dated 2 years ago. A similar piece, not identical, but similar, had sold for $43 million. The phone slipped from her hand. Mom? You okay? Jennifer couldn't breathe properly, couldn't process what she was seeing. She picked up the phone again and searched for the other pieces, matching the certificates to auction records, to museum exhibitions, to jewelry history databases. Each search returned numbers that seemed to add zeros in ways that couldn't be real. $23 million for a ring. $17 million for earrings. $32 million for a bracelet similar to one of the pieces in the hidden compartment. She added them up in her head, then stopped because the total couldn't possibly be accurate. She added them again, then pulled up the calculator app on her phone because her math had to be wrong. But the numbers didn't change. Even accounting for difference in the pieces, for market variation, for the possibility that these weren't quite as valuable as the similar pieces that had sold at auction, she was looking at somewhere between $150 million and $200 million in jewelry, in a box in a storage unit, that she'd almost thrown away. Jennifer started laughing, a sound that came out wrong, too high, too sharp. Lily looked concerned. Mom, what's happening? We're not poor anymore, baby. We're not poor anymore. But even as she said it, reality crashed back. This wasn't found money. This was complicated. The documents mentioned things that couldn't be asked about. The letters suggested origins that might be illegal. And if these pieces were real, if they were actually worth what she thought they were worth, then claiming them meant exposing them to questions she couldn't answer. Her phone rang. The number showed her sister's name. Melissa, calling for the first time since the funeral. Did you find anything worth keeping? Melissa's voice carried the particular edge of someone who expected the answer to be no, but wanted to confirm her assumption. Jennifer looked at the jewelry spread across the storage unit floor. At the certificates. At the letter. At her daughter, holding a necklace that might be worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. Just costume jewelry and old papers. Nothing valuable. Told you. Dorothy never had anything. Make sure you're out by the deadline. I'm not paying another month of storage fees. The call ended. Jennifer sat in silence, processing what she'd just done. She'd lied. Instinctively, immediately. Because even in those first moments of discovery, some part of her understood that telling anyone, even family, especially family, would be dangerous. Lily spoke quietly. Why didn't you tell Aunt Melissa? Because... Jennifer stopped, trying to find words that would make sense to an 8-year-old. Because sometimes things are complicated, and we need to be careful. Because Aunt Melissa would want it. Children saw clearly sometimes. Yes, honey, that's part of it. Jennifer began repacking the jewelry carefully, returning pieces to their hidden compartment, her mind racing through problems she didn't yet have solutions for. How do you sell jewelry worth $189 million? How do you prove ownership? How do you explain where it came from when the letter explicitly said the origins couldn't be spoken about? And more immediately, how do you walk out of the storage unit carrying something this valuable without anyone noticing? She packed the jewelry box carefully into her bag, covering it with the quilt Dorothy had made. To anyone watching, she was just a woman clearing out her dead grandmother's storage unit, taking home a few sentimental items. They left the unit as the afternoon faded into evening, Jennifer locking the orange door behind them with the uncomfortable knowledge that tomorrow she'd have to come back and actually clear it out. But for now, she needed to get the jewelry somewhere safe. She drove home carefully, following every traffic law, hands tied on the wheel. The bag sat in the passenger seat. Lily sat in the back, unusually quiet, processing what had happened in ways Jennifer couldn't begin to guess. Their apartment had never looked smaller or more depressing. Water stains on the ceiling. Carpet worn thin in pathways. The smell of cooking from neighboring units, mixing into something that wasn't quite any identifiable cuisine. Jennifer locked the door behind them and drew the curtains. She set the bag on the kitchen table and just stared at it for a long moment. What do we do now? Lily asked. That was the question. What do you do when you discover you're suddenly, impossibly wealthy, but that wealth comes wrapped in complications that might destroy you if handled wrong? Her first instinct was to research. She spent the evening after Lily went to bed looking up information about jewelry authentication, about auction houses, about selling inherited jewelry, about taxes on inherited property. Every search opened more questions than it answered. The authentication certificates suggested the jewelry was legitimate. But legitimate from what source? The letter mentioned payment for things that couldn't be discussed. Had Lin Mei Chun been a criminal? A spy? Someone caught up in the chaos of post-war China? Jennifer found historical records about Chinese refugees fleeing to Hong Kong in 1949. Millions of people displaced by civil war, carrying whatever they could, selling whatever they had to survive. Some had come from wealth. Some had stolen from wealth. Some had earned their passage through means that history chose not to examine too closely. Which category had Lin Mei belonged to? By 2 a.m., Jennifer's eyes burned from screen time, and her head ached from too much information poorly organized. She closed her laptop and went to the bedroom, where the jewelry box now sat in her closet, hidden behind winter coats they rarely needed in California. Tomorrow she'd have to go to work, cover Maria's shift, stock shelves, smile at customers, pretend her life hadn't just fractured into before and after. Tomorrow she'd also have to decide what to do next, because sitting on $189 million in jewelry while living in a $1,850 apartment and working 2 part-time jobs wasn't sustainable. Eventually someone would notice. Eventually questions would be asked. The smart thing would be to hide it. Put the jewelry back in storage. Forget she'd ever found it. Live her life as planned. Poor, but uncomplicated. But Jennifer had been poor her whole life. had watched her father work himself to death for wages that never quite covered expenses, had married young hoping that partnership would ease the financial pressure, only to discover that her ex-husband considered money something that existed for him to spend and her to earn. She'd been living on the edge for 34 years. One car repair away from disaster. One missed shift away from eviction. One illness away from medical debt that would follow her to the grave. And now, hidden in her closet, was the answer to every financial problem she'd ever had, if she could figure out how to claim it without destroying herself in the process. Jennifer woke at 5:15 a.m. to her phone's alarm, the sound drilling into her skull like accusation. 4 hours of sleep. Not enough. Never enough. But Maria's shift started at 6, and the grocery store was 20 minutes away, and being late meant losing shifts she couldn't afford to lose. Except she could afford to lose them now. Couldn't she? The thought felt surreal in the gray pre-dawn light. She dressed in the dark, pulling on the polyester uniform shirt that never quite came clean no matter how many times she washed it. Her name tag said Jennifer in letters that had started peeling at the edges. She'd been meaning to request a new one for months, but hadn't wanted to seem demanding. In the kitchen, she made coffee from grounds she'd been stretching too thin all week. The jewelry box sat in her closet, 30 feet away, containing more money than she'd earned in 1,000 lifetimes of stocking shelves and scanning groceries. But she still made weak coffee because stopping seemed dangerous. Changing routine seemed like the kind of thing that would draw attention. Lily was still asleep. Jennifer left a note on the kitchen table. Breakfast stuff in the cabinet. Mrs. Patterson will pick you up for school. Love you, Mom. Mrs. Patterson lived in the apartment below and watched Lily when Jennifer's shift started early. She charged $20 a day, which was cheaper than actual daycare, but still money Jennifer resented spending. $20 that could go towards something else. That could accumulate into something meaningful if she could just save it instead of constantly spending it on the immediate necessity in front of her. The grocery store at 6 a.m. hummed with the particular energy of a place preparing for the day's crowds. Stockers moved through aisles with practiced efficiency. The bakery filled the air with the scent of bread that would be too expensive for Jennifer to buy, even though she literally put on the shelves. You're late. Marcus, the assistant manager, said when she clocked in at 6:03. 3 minutes. Still late. Don't make a habit of it. Jennifer bit back the response that wanted to come. That she'd cover Maria's shift with 4 hours' notice. That 3 minutes didn't actually matter. That Marcus himself had shown up 15 minutes late yesterday, and no one had said anything because he was management and she wasn't. She said nothing, just nodded and headed to the dairy section where a delivery had arrived and needed processing. Milk, yogurt, cheese, all of it needing to be rotated and restocked before the morning rush. Her hands moved automatically, muscles remembering motions they performed thousands of times. Stock the shelves. Rotate the old product forward. Check expiration dates. Smile at customers who interrupted to ask where something was, even though everything was clearly marked and they could find it themselves if they bothered to look. Excuse me, where's the organic milk? Aisle 3, ma'am. Are you sure? I looked there. It's on the top shelf, left side. Well, they should put it somewhere more obvious. Jennifer manufactured a smile that felt like it might crack her face. I'll mention it to management. The woman walked away, already forgetting the interaction. Jennifer returned to stocking shelves, her mind far from the grocery store, circling endlessly around the problem waiting in her closet. Authentication. That was the first step. She couldn't sell jewelry worth $189 million without proving it was legitimate. But authentication meant showing it to experts. And experts meant questions about provenance, about ownership, about where these pieces had been for the last 75 years. During her lunch break, Jennifer sat at her car and searched for jewelry appraisers on her phone. The results overwhelmed her. Hundreds of businesses, all claiming expertise, none of them feeling trustworthy for something this important. She refined her search. High-value jewelry authentication. Estate jewelry appraisal. Cartier vintage jewelry experts. The names that kept appearing belonged to auction houses. Christie's, Sotheby's, Bonhams. places that dealt in the kind of jewelry she'd found. But contacting them felt like stepping into a world where people would immediately recognize she didn't belong. A text interrupted her research. Unknown number. Hi, Jennifer. This is Amanda Price from Channel 7 News. We're doing a story about families struggling with storage unit cleanouts during the holidays. Your grandmother's facility mentioned you might be interested in participating. Would love to chat. Jennifer's blood went cold. How did a news reporter have her phone number? How do they know about the storage unit? She deleted the text without responding, then blocked the number. Media attention was the last thing she needed. The absolute last thing. Another text, this one from her landlord. Rent is due in 3 days. Please confirm you'll have payment on time. First of the month was in 3 days. Rent was $1,850. She had $1,200 in her checking account, which meant she needed $650 from somewhere. Her paycheck from the grocery store wouldn't arrive until next week. Her other part-time job, cleaning offices at night, paid every 2 weeks, and she'd just been paid 3 days ago. She could ask Melissa to borrow money, except Melissa would say no. Had said no the last 3 times Jennifer asked. Had made it clear that Jennifer's financial problems weren't her concern. She could overdraft her account, pay the overdraft fees, let the debt accumulate. Except she was already paying overdraft fees from last month, and the cycle never stopped once it started. Or she could sell one piece of jewelry. Just one. Something small. Get enough cash to cover immediate expenses while she figured out what to do with the rest. The thought felt simultaneously logical and insane. You didn't sell a piece from a $189 million collection to pay $650 in rent. That was like burning a Picasso to stay warm. The proportions were all wrong. But proportions didn't matter when you were 3 days from eviction. Her lunch break ended. She returned to the store, to the shelves, to the routine that had defined her life until yesterday. Except nothing felt routine anymore. Everything felt temporary, conditional, waiting to be transformed by the decision she still hadn't made. At 2 p.m., her shift ended. Jennifer drove to Lily's school for pickup, arriving early enough to sit in the parking lot and think. Other mothers chatted in groups near the entrance. They wore clothes that fit properly, drove cars that didn't make concerning noises, projected an ease that came from not mentally calculating the cost of every decision. Jennifer had never fit with them, had never known what to say when they invited her to join them for coffee after pickup. Coffee meant $5 she didn't have, meant sitting and making small talk when she should be getting to her evening job. Lily emerged from the building with her backpack dragging on the ground, deep in conversation with another girl. Jennifer recognized her, Madison, from a family that lived in one of the new developments on the hill, the ones that started at $800,000. Mom! Lily ran over, breathless. Madison invited me to her birthday party on Saturday. Can I go? Please. Madison's mother approached, smiling with the particular friendliness of someone who didn't realize there were layers to simple invitations. Hi, you must be Jennifer. I'm Kate. Madison would love to have Lily at her party. It's from 2 to 5 at our house. Very casual. That's very kind, but please say yes. Madison talks about Lily constantly. They're such good friends. Lily's face held an expression Jennifer knew too well. Hope mixed with the expectation of disappointment. The face of a child who'd learned to want things while understanding she probably wouldn't get them. Birthday parties meant gifts. Gifts cost money. Money Jennifer didn't have. Except she did have it, sitting in her closet. Enough to buy every gift in every store in the entire city. Sure, Jennifer heard herself say. That sounds lovely. Lily's face transformed. Pure joy, uncomplicated and immediate. Kate beamed. Wonderful. I'll text you our address. In the car, Lily chattered about the party, about what she'd wear, about what kind of gift Madison might like. Jennifer drove on autopilot, only half listening, her mind spiraling. This was how it would be if she claimed the jewelry. This would be normal. Birthday parties without calculating costs. Clothes that fit. Food that wasn't discounted. A life without constant, grinding financial anxiety. But claiming it meant risk. Meant questions. Meant exposure. They arrived home to find an eviction notice taped to their door. Jennifer's hands shook as she pulled it down, reading words that didn't make sense. 3-day notice. Failure to pay rent. Eviction proceedings will begin if payment is not received within 72 hours. But rent's not due for 3 more days. Lily read over her shoulder. Mom? What does eviction mean? Nothing, baby. It's a mistake. Jennifer called the landlord immediately. Voicemail. She called again. Still voicemail. She texted. There's been a mistake. Rent isn't due until the 1st. Please call me. No response. Inside the apartment, she paced while Lily did homework at the kitchen table. The eviction notice was wrong. Had to be wrong. Except the date on it was correct, November 28th. Rent was due December 1st. Why would they serve notice 3 days early? Her phone rang. Finally, the landlord. Hi. Yes, I got your notice, but there's been no mistake. Your rent was late last month. You have a history of late payments. Under the new city ordinances, I'm allowed to serve notice early if there's a pattern of unreliability. I paid last month, 5 days late, but I paid. Doesn't matter. You're a risk. I need reliable tenants. You have 3 days to pay this month's rent plus a $200 administrative fee for the notice, or I'm starting eviction proceedings. That's $2,050. I don't have. Not my problem. 3 days. The call ended. Jennifer stood in her kitchen, the eviction notice in one hand, her phone in the other, feeling the world compress into a point so small she could barely breathe. $2,050 in 3 days. Or homelessness. For her and Lily. Because she'd been 5 days late last month paying rent she'd ultimately paid. She walked to her bedroom, opened the closet, pulled out the jewelry box from behind the winter coats. The false bottom opened easily now that she knew where to press. The jewelry lay inside, glowing in the dim light from her bedroom window. The necklace, the ring, the earrings, the bracelet, $189 million. And she was 3 days from living in her car. Jennifer picked up the smallest piece, a ring, platinum with a single emerald. According to the certificate, it was 12 carats. According to her Google searches from last night, something similar had sold at auction for $8 million. She could sell this. One ring. Get enough to pay rent, buy Lily a birthday gift, stop living on the edge for 5 fucking minutes. She put the ring in her pocket. Lily appeared in the doorway. Mom? Are we going to be okay? Jennifer looked at her daughter. 8 years old. Already too familiar with anxiety about money. Already learning to make herself small so she didn't cost too much. Yes, baby. We're going to be okay. Ow. Because Grandma Dorothy took care of us. We just didn't know it yet. That evening, after Lily went to bed, Jennifer sat at her kitchen table with her laptop open and the ring sitting next to her keyboard. She narrowed her options to 3 approaches. Option 1. Find a local jeweler. Get a quick appraisal. Sell for whatever they'd offer. Pros. Fast, simple. Cons. Would get a fraction of the ring's actual value. Might trigger questions about where she got it. Local jewelers gossiped. Option 2. Contact a major auction house. Get proper authentication. Sell through official channels. Pros. Would get fair market value. Legitimate sale with proper documentation. Cons. Would take months. Required explaining provenance. Would definitely trigger extensive questions. Option 3. Find a private buyer. Someone with money who didn't ask too many questions. Pros. Faster than auction, better price than a local jeweler. Cons. Dangerous. How did you find legitimate private buyers for illegal jewelry? How did you avoid getting robbed or killed? None of the options were good. Jennifer picked up her phone and did something she'd sworn she wouldn't do. She called her ex-husband. 3 rings. 4. She was about to hang up when he answered. What? Not hello. Not Jennifer. Just what? In a tone that made clear he resented the interruption. I need advice. About if someone inherited jewelry and wanted to sell it, how would they do that? Silence on the other end. Then why? Just curious. Bullshit. What did you find? Nothing. Forget I called. Jenny, wait. Don't hang up. His voice shifted, trying for warmth he'd never actually possessed. Look, if you really found something valuable, you need to be careful. There are people who prey on situations like that. What kind of people? The kind who'll offer you $100 for something worth $1,000, or the kind who'll straight up rob you. You can't just walk into a pawn shop with inherited jewelry. So what should I do? How valuable are we talking? Jennifer looked at the ring. 12 carats. Platinum. Cartier. $8 million. Moderately. Take it to Goldstein's on 5th Street. Tell them Marcus Morrison referred you. They're legitimate. They'll give you a fair appraisal. Goldstein's. 5th Street. Jennifer. Yeah. Whatever you found, be careful with it. Desperate people make stupid decisions. He hung up. Jennifer stared at her phone. Marcus Morrison, her ex-husband, had just given her actual useful advice that felt almost as surreal as finding the jewelry in the first place. But he was right about one thing. Desperate people made stupid decisions. And she was very, very desperate. The next morning, Jennifer called in sick to both jobs. First time she called in sick in 8 months. Her managers at both places made it clear she was creating problems. She didn't care. She drove to 5th Street with a ring in her purse and Lily in the passenger seat, because finding childcare on zero notice was impossible. Goldstein's occupied a small storefront between a dry cleaner and a phone repair shop. Security cameras covered every angle. Bars on the windows. A buzzer system for entry. Jennifer pressed the button. A voice crackled through the speaker. Yes. I'd like an appraisal. Marcus Morrison referred me. Pause. Then a buzz as the door unlocked. Inside, the shop was smaller than expected, but impeccably maintained. Glass cases displayed estate jewelry organized by era and style. A man in his 60s stood behind the counter, examining something with a jeweler's loupe. You're Marcus's ex-wife. Statement, not question. Yes. He called ahead. Said you'd inherited something potentially valuable. Said I should treat you fairly. That surprised her. Marcus looking out for her interests. Calling ahead to ensure she wasn't cheated. Maybe divorce hadn't erased every shred of decency. What do you have? Jennifer pulled out the ring, setting on the counter with hands that shook slightly. The jeweler's expression changed immediately. He picked up the ring with careful reverence, holding it to the light. May I? Yes. He examined it with a loupe, turning it slowly, checking every angle. His face revealed nothing. After several minutes, he set it down and looked at Jennifer with an expression she couldn't read. Where did you get this? My grandmother. It was in her jewelry box. Your grandmother's name? Dorothy Chen. And before that, I don't know. It belonged to her mother, Lin Mei Chen. He nodded slowly. Ms. Morrison, this ring is authentic. Cartier, 1947 or 1948, platinum setting, 12-karat natural emerald. The clarity is exceptional. The color is what we call Colombian green, the most desirable. The workmanship is museum quality. What's it worth? At auction, conservatively, $8 to $10 million. Jennifer had known, had researched, had seen the numbers. But hearing them spoken aloud by an expert made them real in a way that Google searches hadn't. I need money now. Can you buy it? Ms. Morrison, I can't afford to buy a ring worth $8 million. My entire year's revenue doesn't approach that number. What can you afford? He thought about it. I could offer you $50,000. Cash. Today. But you'd be giving away $8 million for $50,000. That's not a good deal. Lily tugged on Jennifer's sleeve. Mom, don't sell it. It's worth more. The jeweler smiled at Lily. Smart kid. Listen to her. I need money now, Jennifer repeated. I'm being evicted. How much do you need to stop the eviction? $2,050. The jeweler laughed, but not unkindly. You're about to sell an $8 million ring for $50,000 to get $2,050? That's like burning down your house to light a cigarette. So what should I do? He considered carefully. If you need money immediately, I can loan you against the ring's value. Call it a secured loan. I give you $10,000 today. You have 6 months to pay me back at 5% interest. If you don't pay back, the ring becomes mine. But if you do pay back, you keep the ring and can sell it properly. That's still giving away $8 million. No, that's giving you time to figure out how to claim $8 million without destroying your life. Because Ms. Morrison, if you walk out of here with $50,000 cash and no documentation, the IRS is going to wonder where you got it. Your landlord will wonder. Your ex-husband will wonder. You'll have money, but you'll have created a dozen new problems. Lily pulled on Jennifer's sleeve again. I think he's trying to help us, Mom. The jeweler smiled again. Kid's smart. I'm trying to help. Marcus said you were in a bad situation. Asked me to give you honest advice. So here it is. Take the loan. Stop the eviction. Then spend the next 6 months figuring out how to liquidate the rest of your inheritance properly. Because if you've got one ring like this, you probably have more. Am I right? Jennifer didn't answer, but her face must have given something away. Thought so. Ms. Morrison, what you've inherited isn't just jewelry. It's a very complicated situation that will require very careful handling. Take the loan. Buy yourself time. What if I can't pay you back? Then I get an $8 million ring for $10,000 and some interest. I'll survive. Jennifer looked at Lily, at the ring, at the jeweler who was offering her a lifeline instead of exploitation. Okay. He produced paperwork, a contract that spelled out terms clearly, without legal jargon designed to obscure meaning. She'd receive $10,000. She'd repay $10,500 within 6 months. If she failed to repay, the ring became his property. The ring itself would remain in his safe as collateral. She signed. He counted out $10,000 in cash, handing it to her in an envelope. Good luck, Ms. Morrison. And take my advice. Find a lawyer who specializes in estate law before you try to sell anything else. This kind of inheritance is more complicated than you think. In the car, Lily spoke quietly. Are we going to be okay now? Jennifer looked at the envelope containing more money than she usually had at once. Enough to pay rent, buy groceries, fix the car, buy Lily a birthday gift for Madison, and still have money left over. For now, baby. We're okay for now. But even as she said it, she knew the jeweler was right. This wasn't solved. This was postponed. The real problem, $189 million in jewelry of questionable origin sitting in her closet, remained untouched. She'd bought herself 6 months to figure it out. 6 months to decide whether to claim a fortune that might destroy her. 6 months before she had to risk everything or walk away from the answer to every financial problem she'd ever had. Jennifer paid the rent that afternoon, walking into the building manager's office with an envelope containing $2,050 in cash. The administrative fee felt like extortion, but arguing would only create problems. She handed over the money and received a receipt stamp paid in full, in red ink that looked almost aggressive. The manager, a man named Donald Reeves who'd never bothered learning her name despite 3 years of tenancy, counted the bills twice. Didn't think you'd make it. I made it. See that you're on time next month. Jennifer left without responding, her jaw tight enough to ache. On time next month meant another $1,850 she didn't have, another scramble, another crisis deferred rather than solved. The $10,000 loan had bought breathing room, but breathing room wasn't the same as actual air. In the car, she sat with her hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. The remaining $7,950 sat in her purse, an amount of cash she'd never possessed before. It felt dangerous, too visible, too tempting. Money that could evaporate through 1,000 small necessities until nothing remained but the same poverty she'd always known, just briefly interrupted. Lily had been quiet since leaving Goldstein's. Now she spoke, her 8-year-old voice carrying a weight that shouldn't belong to children. Mom, what if Aunt Melissa finds out about the jewelry? She won't. But what if she does? Jennifer turned to face her daughter. Why are you worried about that? Because at Grandma Dorothy's funeral, Aunt Melissa said she should get half of everything. And you said there wasn't anything to get. But now there is something. And if she finds out you lied, she'll be really mad. Children saw clearly. Adults complicated things with justifications and rationalizations, but children cut straight to the truth. Jennifer had lied to Melissa, and if Melissa discovered that lie, she would absolutely demand half. Half of $189 million. For a sister who'd never visited Dorothy in the nursing home, who'd skipped most family gatherings, who'd made it clear that Jennifer's financial struggles were her own fault and not worth Melissa's concern. Aunt Melissa won't find out because we're not telling anyone, Jennifer said. Not yet. Not until we understand what we actually have. But lying is wrong. Sometimes keeping secrets is different from lying. Ow! Jennifer didn't have a good answer. The distinction felt clear in her head, but dissolved under Lily's direct questioning. Keeping the jewelry secret was strategic. Lying to Melissa had been instinctive. The difference was one of framing, not substance. Just trust me, okay? We'll figure this out together. That evening, Jennifer used some of the loan money to order pizza. Real pizza from the good place, not the $5 frozen ones. Lily's face lit up when the delivery arrived. They ate on the couch, watching a movie Lily had wanted to see for months, but Jennifer had never felt justified spending $3.99 to rent. Small luxuries that people with money never thought about. A pizza, a movie rental, not having to calculate every dollar before spending it. This was what the jewelry could buy. Not just pizzas, but a life where pizza wasn't a calculated extravagance. Where movie rentals didn't require justification. Where Lily could have friends over without Jennifer mentally inventorying what snacks they had and whether she could afford to feed extra children. After Lily went to bed, Jennifer pulled out her laptop and began researching in earnest. Not just jewelry appraisal now, but the legal complications of inheriting valuable property. Estate law, inheritance tax, provenance documentation. The alphabet soup of regulations that governed transferring wealth across generations. What she learned wasn't encouraging. California inheritance tax required reporting any estate worth over $166,250. Her grandmother's estate, including the jewelry, was worth approximately $189 million. That meant an inheritance tax bill of roughly $15 million, due within 9 months of death. $15 million she didn't have. But wait, that assumed the jewelry had been properly documented as part of Dorothy's estate. It hadn't. The jewelry had been hidden, unknown, not listed in any estate inventory, which meant either Dorothy had hidden it deliberately to avoid taxes, or she'd genuinely forgotten it existed, or she'd never legally owned it in the first place. Jennifer dug deeper into Lin Mei Chen's history. Her great-grandmother had come to America from Hong Kong in 1949. Records showed she'd arrived with Dorothy, then age 4, through a refugee resettlement program. They'd settled in San Francisco's Chinatown. Lin Mei had worked as a seamstress. She died in 1963. No records indicated wealth. No property ownership. No business interests. Nothing suggesting she'd possessed jewelry worth nearly $200 million. So where had it come from? Jennifer reread the translated letter that had accompanied the jewelry. They were payment for things I will not speak of. They were earned through means I am not proud of. Payment for what? Services rendered during wartime? Intelligence work? Something darker that Lin Mei couldn't name, even in a letter meant only for her daughter? The rabbit hole went deeper. Jennifer searched for information about valuable jewelry that had disappeared from China during the Civil War. The results were extensive. Thousands of pieces had vanished as wealthy families fled. Some had been smuggled out. Some had been stolen by various factions. Some had been lost entirely. Museums had whole departments dedicated to identifying and recovering Chinese cultural artifacts that had been illegally removed during that period. The pieces Jennifer had found, authenticated Cartier, Van Cleef and Arpels, Bulgari, weren't Chinese in origin. They were European luxury goods. But they'd been in China in 1949, had been owned by someone wealthy enough to afford them, had been transferred to Lin Mei Chen through means she refused to discuss. Jennifer found an article from an art recovery website. It listed several pieces of jewelry reported stolen or missing from various sources during the 1940s. The descriptions were vague, but one entry made her blood run cold. Cartier necklace, platinum, approximately 147 carats, diamonds and colored stones, commissioned 1948 for undisclosed client. Reported missing 1949, Shanghai. Interpol case file number 48392. Status: unrecovered. The necklace in her closet was 147 carats. The certificate said 1948. Shanghai would have been a logical place for wealthy clients to purchase luxury goods before the communist takeover. Was she sitting on stolen property? The distinction mattered enormously. Inherited jewelry could be sold legally, though with tax implications. Stolen jewelry couldn't be sold at all without risking criminal prosecution. It would be seized by authorities and returned to rightful owners if they could be identified. Jennifer's hands shook as she clicked through more search results. She found two other pieces that matched items in her collection, both listed as missing, both connected to wealthy families who'd fled China, both carrying Interpol case numbers. At 2 a.m., she finally closed her laptop and sat in the dark, processing what she'd learned. The jewelry was real. The jewelry was valuable. And the jewelry might be stolen. Lin Mei-chun had acquired pieces worth nearly $200 million through means she refused to discuss. She'd hidden them, given them to Dorothy. Dorothy had apparently never discovered them, or had discovered them and chosen to do nothing, letting them remain hidden for another 60 years. Now, Jennifer had them, had already borrowed against one piece, had committed to a path that assumed ownership. But if the jewelry was stolen, if the original owners could be identified, if Interpol or international art recovery organizations got involved, Jennifer wouldn't just lose the jewelry. She'd face criminal charges, possession of stolen property, fraud, maybe more. She should return it, put everything back in the storage unit, walk away, forget she'd ever found it. Except she'd already borrowed $10,000, already spent $2,050 of it, already created a paper trail connecting her to the ring. Walking away wasn't clean anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text. 2:17 a.m. Unknown number. Hi, Jennifer. This is Kate, Madison's mom. I know it's late, but I couldn't sleep and realized I never got your number to send party details. Madison is so excited Lily is coming. Casual dress. No gifts necessary. Seriously, we have too many toys already. See you Saturday at 2. The text felt like it came from a different universe. A universe where people worried about having too many toys, where birthday parties were casual and gift expectations could be waved away with parenthetical sincerity. Jennifer typed back, "Thanks. Lily's excited too. See you Saturday." She didn't mention that Lily had already been planning what gift to buy with money they didn't have. That no gifts necessary was the kind of thing wealthy people said without realizing it created its own pressure. That showing up empty-handed would mark Lily as the poor kid, even if Kate's intentions were good. The next morning, Jennifer woke to Lily already dressed, her backpack ready, standing by the door. "We need to go shopping today. From Madison's present. School first. After school then. Please, Mom. The party is Saturday. That's only 2 days." At Lily's school, Jennifer sat in the pickup line watching other parents chat easily, their cars newer, their clothes fitting properly, their faces unconcerned with whether the gas tank would last until next paycheck. Kate's SUV was 3 cars ahead, a pristine white Toyota that probably cost more than Jennifer earned in 2 years. When school ended, Lily emerged already planning. Target has good toys, and it's cheap. We can get something nice without spending too much. They drove to Target. Inside, Lily made straight for the toy section, evaluating options with the careful consideration of someone who understood that price tags mattered. She picked up a craft kit, checked the price, $24.99, and shook her head. Too expensive. She examined a board game, $19.99, considered it, then replaced it. Still too much. Finally, she selected a book about horses and a small stuffed animal. Together, they cost $14.47. This is good, right, Mom? Madison likes horses. Jennifer looked at her daughter, choosing a gift based on what they could afford rather than what the birthday girl might actually want. Watched Lily practice the same calculations Jennifer had been teaching her through years of example. Make do. Settle. Choose what's possible, not what's preferred. The jewelry in Jennifer's closet could buy every toy in this store. Every toy in every store in the city. Could make it so Lily never again had to select gifts based on price tags rather than preference. "Actually, let's get the craft kit too," Jennifer heard herself say. "Mom, that's almost $40 total. We can afford it." Lily's face showed confusion mixed with hope. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." They bought both gifts. $39.46 total. Jennifer paid with cash from the loan, watching numbers that would have paralyzed her last week become manageable. Not because her income had changed, but because she'd borrowed against jewelry that might be stolen. In the car, Lily hugged the bag containing wrapped gifts. Madison's going to love these. I hope so, baby. Mom? Are we rich now? The question landed with uncomfortable weight. No, sweetie. We just have a little more breathing room right now. Because of what Grandma Dorothy left us. Yes. Is that why you seem scared all the time lately? Because of the jewelry? Jennifer glanced at her daughter, surprised by the observation. I'm not scared. You look scared, like when you check the closet a lot, and wake up in the middle of the night, and keep researching stuff on your computer. Children saw everything. Jennifer had thought she was hiding her anxiety, but Lily had been watching, cataloging, interpreting. It's complicated, honey. The jewelry is very valuable, but that makes it complicated. Complicated how? How did you explain to an 8-year-old that you discovered something that could either save you or destroy you, depending on decisions you weren't qualified to make? That wealth came with risks proportional to its size? That having $189 million was a problem in ways that having $189 wasn't? I need to make sure we handle everything correctly. That's all. Maybe we should ask someone for help. Like who? Like a lawyer. That's what people do on TV when things are complicated. They ask lawyers. Jennifer almost laughed. Her 8-year-old was giving her the same advice the jeweler had given. Find a lawyer who specializes in estate law. Except lawyers cost money, and explaining the situation required revealing the jewelry's existence, and revelation meant risk. But maybe Lily was right. Maybe trying to navigate this alone was the mistake. Maybe professional guidance, despite its cost, was cheaper than the catastrophe that would follow amateur mistakes. That afternoon, Jennifer searched for estate lawyers. The results overwhelmed her again. Hundreds of practitioners, all claiming expertise, all charging fees she couldn't begin to afford. Consultations alone ran $300 to $500. Actual representation could cost tens of thousands. She refined her search. Free legal consultation estate law. Low-cost estate attorney. Legal aid for inheritance issues. The results were sparse. Legal aid organizations existed, but they focused on criminal defense and housing issues, not estate law for people who'd inherited potential fortunes. Free consultations were offered by lawyers hoping to land wealthy clients, not people whose wealth was theoretical and possibly illegal. Jennifer was about to close her laptop when she found something different. A law school clinic. Students supervised by professors, offering free consultations for complex cases that could serve as teaching opportunities. Stanford Law School. Estate planning and probate clinic. We provide free legal services for individuals navigating complex inheritance issues. Cases are handled by senior law students under direct faculty supervision. She called immediately, expecting voicemail. Instead, a woman answered. Estate planning clinic, this is Sarah. Hi. I need help with an inheritance situation. I saw you offer free consultations. We do. Can you briefly describe the situation? Jennifer hesitated. How much should she reveal on the phone? How much was safe? My grandmother recently passed away. I inherited some jewelry. I need help understanding how to handle it properly. For taxes and other legal issues. Okay, and roughly what value are we discussing? Significant. Pause. Significant meaning thousands? Hundreds of thousands. More than that. Longer pause. Ms. Morrison. Jennifer Morrison. Ms. Morrison, why don't you come in for a consultation? We have an opening tomorrow at 3 p.m. You'll meet with a student attorney and supervising professor. Bring any documentation you have, appraisals, certificates, photos of the items. We'll see if we can help. Jennifer scheduled the appointment, her heart racing. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., she'd be showing jewelry potentially worth $189 million to law students and their professors, revealing what she'd been hiding, creating a record of the discovery. No going back after that. That night, she couldn't sleep. Lay in bed watching shadows move across the ceiling, running through scenarios. Best case, the lawyers tell her the jewelry is legally hers, help her sell it properly. She pays inheritance taxes and walks away wealthy. Worst case, they identify the pieces as stolen, report her to authorities. She loses everything and faces criminal charges. Most likely case, something in between. Complicated, expensive, protracted. At 2 a.m., Jennifer got up and retrieved the jewelry box from her closet. She opened the false bottom and examined each piece by the light of her phone. The necklace, the remaining ring, the earrings, the bracelet. She picked up the necklace, feeling its weight, watching light catch in the stones even in the darkness of her bedroom. 147 carats. Commissioned 1948. Reported missing 1949. Someone had owned this once. Someone wealthy enough to commission custom Cartier. Someone who'd been in Shanghai when the communists took power. Someone who'd lost it. Through theft, through confiscation, through the chaos of war. Did that someone's family still exist? Were there heirs who'd spent decades looking for this necklace? Would they have claims that superseded hers? Or had 75 years erased whatever ownership claims had existed? Did time eventually cleanse stolen property, turning theft into legitimate inheritance through nothing more than the passage of years? Jennifer didn't know. Didn't know if anyone knew. Didn't know if law had clear answers or if this lived in some gray area where precedent was sparse and outcomes unpredictable. She returned the jewelry to its hiding place and went back to bed, knowing sleep wouldn't come, but hoping anyway. Friday morning arrived with rain, the kind that turned California's inadequate drainage systems into minor floods. Jennifer called in sick to both jobs again. Her manager's patience was wearing thin. She didn't care. Tomorrow was Saturday, Lily's party, a whole day she couldn't work. Losing jobs that barely paid enough to survive had stopped feeling threatening when she was potentially sitting on $189 million. The law school clinic occupied a building on Stanford's campus that managed to be simultaneously intimidating and welcoming. Modern architecture that suggested money and prestige. Signs directing people to free legal services that suggested accessibility. Jennifer had left Lily with Mrs. Patterson, paying her $20 she could now afford but still resented. She carried a folder containing the certificates of authenticity, photos of the jewelry she'd taken with her phone, and a copy of Lynn May's translated letter. The original jewelry remained hidden in her closet. No way was she walking onto a college campus with $189 million in her purse. Jennifer Morrison, a young woman approached, maybe 25, wearing professional clothes that suggested she was trying hard to project competence. "I'm Emma Chun. I'll be working on your case today, along with Professor Reynolds." Chun. Jennifer caught the coincidence. "My grandmother was Chun." Small world. Dorothy Chen, right? I reviewed the intake form. Emma led Jennifer into a conference room where an older man sat reviewing documents. "This is Professor Michael Reynolds. He supervises the clinic." Reynolds looked up, extending his hand. Silver hair, wire-rimmed glasses, the bearing of someone who'd spent 40 years practicing law before transitioning to teaching. "Ms. Morrison, Emma's briefed me on your situation. You've inherited jewelry and need guidance on proper handling." "Yes. Let's start with what you have. May I see the documentation?" Jennifer handed over the folder. Emma and Reynolds examined the contents in silence, passing papers between them. Jennifer watched their expressions, tried to read reactions. After several minutes, Reynolds set down the papers and removed his glasses. "Ms. Morrison, do you understand what you brought us? Valuable jewelry? You've brought us pieces that appear on multiple international watch lists for stolen property. This necklace," he tapped the certificate, "was reported stolen from the Shanghai residence of a French diplomat in 1949. This ring matches the description of property taken from a British banking family during the communist takeover. These earrings were part of a collection belonging to a Russian emigre family, reported missing in 1948. Jennifer's stomach dropped. "I didn't steal them. My grandmother. We're not accusing you of theft, Ms. Morrison, but the property you've inherited has a very complicated history. A problematic history." Emma spoke gently. "The question isn't whether you stole anything. The question is whether your great-grandmother did. She got them as payment for something. She said so in a letter." "Payment from whom?" Reynolds asked. "For what?" She didn't say. "Convenient. Jennifer felt defensive anger rising. My great-grandmother came to America as a refugee with a 4-year-old daughter. She worked as a seamstress her whole life. She wasn't some criminal mastermind. Reynolds' expression softened slightly. Ms. Morrison, I'm not trying to attack your family. I'm trying to help you understand the legal reality. The property you've inherited appears to be stolen. Possessing stolen property, even inherited stolen property, is complicated. Selling it is potentially criminal. So what am I supposed to do? Just give it back. To whom? The original owners are likely dead. Their heirs might exist, but finding them would require extensive research. International law regarding property stolen during wartime is Byzantine. Some countries have treaties governing repatriation. Others don't. China's position on property that left the country during the Civil War is complex. Emma added, and that's assuming you can even prove clear ownership chains. 75 years ago, record-keeping wasn't as thorough as it is now. Chaos of war destroyed lots of documentation. Jennifer felt everything she'd hoped for slipping away. So I can't keep it. I can't sell it. What can I do? Reynolds considered carefully. Several options, none of them simple. Option 1. You report the jewelry to appropriate authorities. Interpol, Chinese cultural heritage organizations, the families who reported pieces stolen. You surrender everything and receive nothing. Option 2. You attempt to sell through underground channels. You'll get a fraction of the value, risk criminal prosecution, and live with the knowledge you've profited from stolen property. Option 3. You hire attorneys who specialize in this exact issue. They'll research provenance, attempt to identify legitimate claims, negotiate settlements with potential heirs. It'll cost 6 figures and take years, but you might emerge with legal ownership of at least some pieces. I don't have 6 figures. No, but the jewelry is worth 8 or 9 figures. Attorneys would work on contingency, taking payment from eventual sale. Jennifer processed this. So I need to hire expensive lawyers who will take years to maybe sort this out, and if they succeed, I'll have to give up some unknown percentage of the jewelry to settle claims, and pay the lawyers another percentage, and pay inheritance taxes on what's left, and I might end up with, what, $1 million? $2 million? Possibly. Possibly nothing if claims against the property exceed its value. And in the meantime, you possess property that's legally questionable. You've already borrowed against one piece, which creates complications. That loan needs to be repaid or you forfeit the ring, which then becomes someone else's problem. Emma interjected, her voice sympathetic. Ms. Morrison, I understand this isn't what you wanted to hear. But hiding the jewelry and hoping it somehow becomes legitimate over time isn't a strategy. Neither is selling pieces secretly and risking prosecution. You need professional help navigating this. Help I can't afford. Help you can't afford not to get, Reynolds corrected. Because the alternative is either losing everything to seizure or facing criminal charges for handling stolen property. Jennifer sat in silence, feeling the walls close in. She'd come here hoping for guidance that would help her claim the jewelry. Instead, she'd gotten confirmation that the jewelry was poison. Valuable poison, but poison nonetheless. What would you do? She asked Reynolds. If you were me? He thought carefully before answering. Honestly, if I were in your position, with your financial constraints, I'd consider option 1. Report the jewelry. Surrender it to appropriate authorities. Walk away clean. And stay poor. Yes, but free from legal liability. Free from the ethical complications of profiting from theft. Free from years of expensive litigation with uncertain outcomes. Jennifer stood abruptly. Thank you for your time. Emma stood too. Ms. Morrison, wait. We can help. Professor Reynolds is being cautious, but there are scenarios where you retain significant value. Let us do more research. Research that takes years while I'm still getting evicted and working 2 jobs that barely pay rent? No, thank you. She grabbed her folder and walked out, anger and despair mixing into something that felt like drowning. In the parking lot, she sat in her car and cried, great heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep and hopeless. The jewelry was stolen. The jewelry was poison. The jewelry was her grandmother's legacy and her great-grandmother's crime. And she had no idea what to do with any of it. Her phone rang. Melissa. Jennifer almost didn't answer, but instinct made her pick up. What? Wow, rude. I'm calling to check on the storage unit situation. You cleared out yet? Working on it. Work faster. The facility called me. Apparently I'm listed as secondary contact. They said you've been in and out, but nothing's been removed. I told them we're clearing it by the deadline. You. Obviously you. I'm not lifting boxes. Just making sure you're actually handling it. I'm handling it. Good. Because I don't want this dragging on. Dorothy's gone. Her stuff is junk. Get rid of it and we can all move on. Melissa hung up without saying goodbye. Jennifer sat staring at her phone. Melissa was secondary contact on the storage unit, which meant she could access it, could go through Dorothy's things, could potentially find the box Jennifer hadn't been careful enough to hide. Panic seized her. She started the car and drove directly to the storage facility, breaking the speed limit, running yellow lights, heart pounding. The facility was 20 minutes away. Jennifer made it in 12. She parked haphazardly and ran to Unit 247, fumbling with the key, yanking the door open. Everything looked untouched. Boxes exactly where she'd left them. No signs of disturbance. But the space where the jewelry box had been sitting on the shelf, that space was empty. Because Jennifer had taken a jewelry box home, which meant if Melissa had been here, she would have noticed it was gone. Would she remember it? Would she care? Jennifer needed to finish clearing the unit. Needed to remove any evidence that valuable items had been here. Needed to create a paper trail showing she'd found nothing of significance. She spent the next 3 hours loading her car. Boxes of junk. Furniture too damaged to sell. Clothes that smelled of mothballs and decay. She made 3 trips to Goodwill, documenting each donation with receipts that showed exactly what she'd surrendered. Nothing valuable. All junk, just as she'd told Melissa. By 7 p.m., the unit was empty except for a few boxes of photo albums Jennifer planned to keep. She took photos of the cleared space, time-stamped them, sent them to Melissa with a text. Unit cleared. Everything donated or trashed. We're done. Melissa responded immediately. Finally. About time. Jennifer drove home exhausted, her clothes filthy, her hands scratched from cardboard and rough edges. Lily was waiting with Mrs. Patterson, who looked annoyed. You said you'd be back by 5. I'm sorry. Emergency with the storage unit. That's 2 extra hours. $40. Jennifer paid without arguing, watching her loan money diminish. $7,950 became $7,910. Still more than she'd ever had, but suddenly feeling finite in ways that $189 million hadn't. After Mrs. Patterson left, Lily showed Jennifer the outfit she'd picked for tomorrow's party. A dress she'd outgrown slightly, but insisted still fit. Shoes that were worn but clean. Her hair brushed and ready to be styled. You're going to look beautiful, Jennifer said, meaning it. Do you think Madison's house is really big? Probably. Do you think they have a pool? Maybe. Do you think they'll think I'm weird for bringing 2 gifts when everyone else probably brings one really expensive gift? Jennifer pulled Lily into a hug. I think they'll be happy you're there. And anyone who judges you based on gifts isn't worth impressing. That's what you always say. Because it's always true. But even as Jennifer said it, she knew the world didn't actually work that way. People judged. Constantly. Based on clothes, gifts, addresses, cars, every visible marker of wealth or its absence. Lily would learn that eventually. Was probably already learning it, at 8 years old, watching how other children at school treated her differently when they learned she lived in an apartment instead of a house. That night, after Lily slept, Jennifer returned to her research. But this time she searched different terms. Statute of limitations, stolen property. International law, wartime theft. China cultural property, repatriation. What she learned was dense and contradictory. Different countries had different laws. Different time periods applied. Some property could be legitimately claimed 75 years later. Some couldn't. Some required proof of ownership that no longer existed. Some relied on provenance documentation that was easily forged or lost to history. She found a case study about jewelry stolen from Jewish families during the Holocaust. That property remained subject to claims decades later, with courts generally favoring repatriation to heirs when ownership could be proven. But she also found cases where time had effectively cleansed title, where property stolen during wartime passed through enough hands, held by innocent purchasers for sufficient years, became legally owned through adverse possession or similar doctrines. Which category did Lin May's jewelry fall into? Jennifer couldn't determine from academic articles and legal summaries. She needed real advice, needed someone who specialized in exactly this situation. She needed the expensive lawyers Reynolds had mentioned, the ones who worked on contingency, the ones who'd take years and significant percentages but might actually solve this. Jennifer pulled up law firm websites, searching for practices that specialized in art recovery, cultural property, international estate law. The firms that appeared in her searches occupied addresses in Manhattan, Los Angeles, London, Geneva, places where clients paid five-figure retainers just for initial consultations. One firm's website showed photos of artwork they'd recovered. Paintings, sculptures, jewelry. Pieces worth millions, returned to rightful owners or sold legitimately after decades in legal limbo. The firm took 30% of recovered value. 30% of $189 million was $56.7 million, which meant Jennifer would keep $132.3 million. Except that was before inheritance taxes, before settlements with original owners or their heirs, before whatever other claims might emerge. Still, even if she ended up with 10%, 10% of $189 million was $18.9 million. $18 million. More than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes of stocking shelves and cleaning offices. But getting there required trusting lawyers she'd never met. Required revealing everything. Required years of litigation with no guarantee of success. Required risk. Jennifer stared at her laptop screen at the law firm's contact page, her cursor hovering over the schedule consultation button. Tomorrow was the birthday party. Tomorrow she'd watch Lily interact with children whose lives were uncomplicated by poverty. Tomorrow she'd see what normal looked like for people who didn't constantly calculate costs. And then she'd decide. Keep the jewelry hidden and live with poison in her closet. Or reveal everything and risk losing it all for the chance at legitimate wealth. She closed the laptop without clicking the button. Not yet. Not quite yet. Tomorrow, after the party, after seeing what Lily's life could become if Jennifer made the right choices. Then she'd decide. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of California sunshine that made poverty feel almost bearable. Jennifer woke to find Lily already dressed in her party outfit, standing by the window, watching the street below with the anxious excitement of a child about to enter a world she'd only imagined. "What time do we leave?" Lily asked for the third time that morning. "Party starts at 2. It's 9 a.m. We have 5 hours. I want to make sure we're not late." Jennifer understood. Being late to a party at Madison's house, arriving after the other children, walking in when everyone was already comfortable and grouped, would mark Lily as an outsider even before she spoke. Better to be early, to claim space, to blend in before the room filled with kids whose lives didn't require constant calculation. They ate breakfast, cereal, juice, toast, and Lily reviewed the gifts she'd wrapped with care that exceeded the present's actual value. The craft kit and a horse book covered in paper Jennifer had bought from the dollar store. Tape applied with precision. A card with "Happy Birthday, Madison," written in Lily's careful handwriting. At 1:30, they got in the car. The address Kate had texted was in the hills, where houses started at prices Jennifer couldn't even conceptualize. She drove carefully, following GPS directions that took them up winding roads with views of the valley spreading below, neighborhoods where wealth announced itself through landscape alone. Madison's house appeared around a curve like something from a magazine. 2 stories of modern architecture with floor-to-ceiling windows. Manicured lawn. 3-car garage. A fountain in the circular driveway. Not ostentatious, exactly, but comfortable in a way that only came from money, so established it didn't need to advertise itself. Jennifer parked on the street, though the driveway had room. Walking up the path with Lily felt like approaching a different species habitat. Kate answered the door before they knocked. her smile warm and genuine. "You made it. Come in, come in." Madison's been watching for Lily all morning. Inside, the house was everything Jennifer had expected and worse. High ceilings, artwork that looked original, furniture that matched intentionally rather than through accumulation, a kitchen visible from the entrance, all stainless steel and marble countertops, bigger than Jennifer's entire apartment. Children's laughter echoed from somewhere deeper in the house. Kate led them through a living room where every surface suggested thoughtfulness. Books arranged by color, throw pillows that coordinated, lighting that created ambience rather than just illuminating space. "We're doing games in the backyard. Pool's heated if anyone wants to swim." Pool. Of course there was a pool. The backyard was an acre of carefully maintained grass, mature trees, and a swimming pool that looked like it belonged at a resort. 20 children ran in organized chaos, supervised by what appeared to be a hired entertainer in a colorful costume. Tables were set with decorations that matched a theme Jennifer didn't immediately recognize. Some cartoon character she'd never heard of, but that apparently required coordinated plates, cups, napkins, and centerpieces. Madison spotted Lily and shrieked. "You came." She ran over and grabbed Lily's hand, dragging her toward a group of girls. Lily went willingly, her earlier nervousness melting under the warmth of genuine welcome. Jennifer stood awkwardly, holding the gifts, until Kate rescued her. "You can put those on the present table. Come meet the other parents." The present table was already piled with boxes wrapped in professional-looking paper, bags from expensive stores, items that clearly hadn't been purchased at Target with careful price consideration. Jennifer added Lily's gifts, their dollar store wrapping suddenly looking shabby next to everything else. Kate introduced Jennifer to a cluster of mothers standing near the pool, drinking wine from actual glasses rather than plastic cups. Their names blurred together. Kristen, Amanda, Julie, Sarah. They wore casual clothes that Jennifer recognized as expensive from the way fabric draped and seams finished. "Jennifer's daughter Lily is in Madison's class," Kate explained. "They become such good friends." "How lovely," one of them said. "Amanda, maybe?" "What do you do, Jennifer?" The question landed like it always did, innocent on the surface, loaded underneath. What people really asked was, "What's your income? What's your status? Where do you fit in the hierarchy we've all accepted?" "I work retail," Jennifer said. "And office cleaning." Slight pause. Recalibration. The women's expressions didn't change dramatically, but something shifted. Posture, engagement, the direction of their attention. Jennifer had just been categorized as someone whose financial reality was fundamentally different from theirs. "That must be exhausting," Kristen said, her tone carrying the particular sympathy wealthy people offered those they considered less fortunate. "It keeps me busy. I always admire people who work so hard," Amanda added. "I don't know how you do it with a child." The subtext was clear. "I'm glad I don't have to." Jennifer manufactured a smile. "You manage." The conversation shifted to topics that excluded her naturally. Schools Jennifer couldn't afford. Vacation destinations she'd never visit. Renovation projects that cost more than her annual income. She stood on the periphery, sipping water, because wine at 2 p.m. felt wrong, even if everyone else was doing it, watching Lily play with children whose lives operated according to completely different rules. A man approached, late 30s, wearing golf clothes that somehow managed to look both athletic and expensive. "You must be Lily's mom." "I'm David, Madison's dad." "Jennifer, thank you for having us." Madison talks about Lily constantly. "Good kid you've got there." "Thank you." "Kate mentioned you work retail." "Which store?" "Savamart." "And I clean offices at night." David's expression flickered with something Jennifer had learned to recognize. The mental calculation people made when they encountered someone whose economic reality was so different from their own that they couldn't quite process it. Not judgment, exactly. More like anthropological curiosity about how people survived on incomes they couldn't imagine living on. 2 jobs. That's impressive. It's necessary. He nodded, searching for common ground, finding none. "Well, make yourself at home. Food's coming out soon." He drifted away, back to his peers, leaving Jennifer alone near the pool. She found a chair slightly separated from the main clusters of parents and sat, watching Lily play. Her daughter had joined a game involving the pool. Though she wasn't swimming, Lily hadn't mentioned she didn't have a swimsuit, hadn't wanted to create another expense. She ran around the edges with the other children, laughing, fully included, genuinely happy in a way Jennifer hadn't seen in months. This was what money bought. Not just pools and big houses and expensive gifts. It bought ease. It bought social inclusion. It bought the kind of childhood where you went to birthday parties without worrying whether your gift was good enough or your clothes fit properly, or you belonged at all. Jennifer's phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Ms. Morrison, this is Emma Chun from the law clinic. Professor Reynolds and I have been researching your case. We found something important. Can you call when you have a moment? Jennifer's heart rate picked up. She stood and walked to a corner of the yard where conversation wouldn't be overheard, dialing Emma's number. Emma answered immediately. Ms. Morrison, thank you for calling back. I know yesterday's meeting was discouraging, but Professor Reynolds and I kept digging. We found something that changes things. What? The necklace you mentioned. The Cartier piece reported missing in 1949? We found the original Interpol report. It wasn't filed by the French diplomat's family. It was filed by the communist government as part of their claim that foreign nationals had illegally removed Chinese cultural property. I don't understand what that means. It means the theft wasn't theft from an individual. It was the Chinese government claiming that property purchased by foreigners in China couldn't be legally removed when those foreigners fled. But international law at the time didn't recognize those claims. If your great-grandmother acquired jewelry legitimately from foreign nationals leaving China, she wasn't stealing. She was participating in a legal transaction, even if the Chinese government disputed it. Jennifer felt something shift. So it's not stolen. Legally, it's complicated. The Chinese government still claims property removed during that period, but their claims have been consistently rejected by international courts in similar cases. The families who originally commissioned the pieces, the French diplomat, the British bankers, weren't Chinese. They bought luxury goods in China, then had to leave those goods behind when they fled. Your great-grandmother acquiring those pieces was essentially purchase or payment, not theft. But the Interpol reports were filed by a government whose claims aren't recognized by international law. We found 3 relevant precedents. Property removed from China by foreign nationals or Chinese refugees during the Civil War period has consistently been recognized as legitimately acquired when it can be shown that original owners aren't seeking return. How do we show that? That's where it gets interesting. We contacted Interpol. None of the families listed in the original reports have active claims. The French diplomat's heirs specifically stated in 1976 that they considered the property lost to war and had no interest in recovery. The British banking family dissolved in 1982. There are no surviving heirs. The Russian émigré family died out in the 1990s without descendants. Jennifer's hands trembled. So, no one's looking for this jewelry? Correct. Which means under international law, it belongs to whoever legitimately possesses it. Your great-grandmother acquired it through payment or trade during a recognized refugee crisis. She brought it to America legally. We checked immigration records, and refugees weren't required to declare personal property in 1949. She never sold it, never claimed it, just held it until she died. Your grandmother inherited it, also never claimed or sold it. Now you've inherited it. Clean chain of title. But you said yesterday, I was being cautious based on preliminary research. Today, after 10 hours of deep research by me and 2 other students under Professor Reynolds' supervision, we've built a solid case that the property is legitimately yours. Jennifer sat down heavily on a decorative bench, the party continuing around her, her mind reeling. So I can sell it? With proper documentation and legal guidance, yes. But Ms. Morrison, there's one complication. The inheritance tax. Your grandmother's estate was minimal. The house sold for barely enough to cover her care facility fees. But this jewelry, if properly valued, triggers substantial inheritance tax obligations. How much? California doesn't have inheritance tax, but federal estate tax applies. For an estate worth $189 million, You're looking at roughly $15 million in taxes, due within 9 months of your grandmother's death. $15 million. The number that had paralyzed Jennifer 2 days ago suddenly felt different. Not impossible, just large. If I sell the jewelry for $189 million, I pay $15 million in taxes and keep $174 million. Essentially, yes, though you'll also owe capital gains on any appreciation since inheritance, legal fees from managing the sale, and auction house commissions of typically 10 to 15%. Realistically, you'd net somewhere between $130 and $150 million. $130 million. $150 million. Numbers that still didn't feel real, but were suddenly, impossibly, potentially achievable. What do I do next? We can help you file the proper estate documents and connect you with attorneys who specialize in high-value inheritance sales. Professor Reynolds knows several firms that would take this on contingency. But Ms. Morrison, you need to move quickly. Your grandmother died 3 weeks ago. The 9-month clock for estate taxes is already ticking. Okay, yes. What's the first step? Come back to the clinic Monday. Bring all the jewelry and documentation. We'll photograph everything, get it properly appraised through legitimate channels, and start the legal process. This is going to take months to resolve fully, but we can get you interim support. Loans against the estate's value to cover immediate needs while the sale processes. Jennifer thanked Emma and ended the call. She sat for a long moment, processing what she just learned. The jewelry wasn't stolen. The jewelry was legitimately hers. The jewelry could actually, truly transform her life. She looked up to find Lily running toward her, dripping wet, laughing. "Mom, Madison's dad said I could swim. He found an extra suit. Can I?" Behind Lily, David stood with a girl's swimsuit, still tagged. "We always keep extra suits for guests," he explained. "Madison outgrew this one. Lily's welcome to it." Jennifer felt tears threaten. The casual generosity of people who bought extra swimsuits just in case, who could offer them to a child whose mother couldn't afford to buy one without making it feel like charity. That's very kind. Thank you. Lily changed and dove into the pool with the other children, her earlier caution gone, fully inhabiting the moment. Jennifer watched her daughter swim with kids whose lives were so different, but who, in this moment, treated her as an equal. Kate appeared beside Jennifer. "She's having such a good time. Thank you for inviting her. Madison needs friends like Lily." Most of the kids at this school, Kate gestured vaguely at the backyard full of expensive everything. "They're lovely, but they're growing up in a bubble. Madison tells me Lily's different. More grounded, more aware of how privileged we are." Jennifer almost laughed. Grounded. Aware. Adult's way of saying poor without saying poor. "Lily's a good kid. So are you doing okay? I remember you mentioned things were tight when we first met." The question was kind, but dangerous. How much should Jennifer reveal? That 3 days ago, she'd been on the verge of eviction? That she still worked 2 jobs that barely paid rent? That everything Kate saw as struggle was about to transform into wealth beyond anything Kate herself possessed? "We're managing better than we were," Jennifer said carefully. "Good, because I wanted to mention my company is looking for a project coordinator. Someone organized, detail-oriented, good at managing complex timelines. The pay starts at $75,000 plus benefits." I immediately thought of you. $75,000. Last week, that number would have been life-changing. Today, it felt almost quaint. But Jennifer couldn't explain why without revealing things she wasn't ready to discuss. "That's incredibly generous. Can I think about it?" "Of course. No pressure. I just thought, well, Madison talks about how hard you work, and I thought maybe a position with regular hours and better pay might help." After the party ended, after cake and presents and games and the ritualized chaos of children's celebrations, Jennifer drove home with Lily chattering about every detail. Madison's pool, Madison's house, Madison's mom who was so nice, Madison's dad who gave her the swimsuit. "Mom, can we have a pool someday?" "Maybe, honey. How much does a pool cost?" "A lot. More than $100? Jennifer almost laughed. $100. The price category Lily used for impossibly expensive things. "Yes. More than $100. How much more? Thousands of dollars. Lily fell silent, processing. Then, but we have Grandma Dorothy's jewelry. Couldn't we sell it and get a pool? Jennifer glanced at her daughter. 8 years old and already connecting dots. If we sold the jewelry, we could do a lot more than get a pool. Like what? Like buy a house with a pool and stop worrying about rent. And I could stop working 2 jobs. And you could have new clothes and go to summer camp and take art classes and do all the things your friends do. Really? Really? Lily thought about this. Then, quietly, but you said the jewelry was complicated. It was. But I talked to some lawyers today. They think it's going to be okay. So we're going to be rich? Jennifer pulled into their apartment complex parking lot, looking at the building that had been home for 3 years. Peeling paint, broken gate, the smell of garbage from bins that overflowed every weekend. In 6 months, maybe less, they'd be gone from here. Living somewhere that didn't require checking account balances before buying groceries. We're going to be okay, baby. Really okay. For the first time in a long time. That night, after Lily fell asleep clutching the stuffed animal she'd bought for Madison but kept for herself, Jennifer made a decision. She called the law firm she'd been researching. Hartman and Associates, specialists in international estate law and high-value property recovery. The phone rang once. A professional voice answered despite the late hour. Hartman and Associates, emergency line. My name is Jennifer Morrison. I need help managing an inheritance. I was told you handle complex estate sales. We do. What's the approximate value? Jennifer took a breath. $189 million. Pause. I'm transferring you to a senior partner. Another voice, older, male, instantly alert despite the hour. This is Richard Hartman. You said you have an estate worth $189 million. Jewelry. Inherited from my grandmother. It's complicated. Everything worth $189 million is complicated. But complicated is what we do. Can you come to our offices Monday? Yes. Bring everything. The jewelry, documentation, certificates, any correspondence. We'll evaluate what you have and provide recommendations. If we take the case, we work on contingency. 30% of net proceeds after taxes and expenses. You don't pay unless we successfully sell the property. I understand. Ms. Morrison, between now and Monday, tell no one about this. Not family, not friends, not your bank. Complex estates attract attention, legal and illegal. Security matters. After the call, Jennifer sat in the dark of her living room, feeling the weight of decisions shifting from impossible to merely difficult. Monday she'd meet with real attorneys. They'd begin the process of legitimizing her inheritance, of transforming jewelry her great-grandmother had acquired 75 years ago through means never discussed into wealth that could change everything. Sunday passed in a blur of normal routine, made surreal by knowledge that nothing was actually normal anymore. Jennifer went to church with Lily, something they did irregularly when schedules allowed. She sat through a sermon about stewardship and responsibility, feeling every word as personal accusation or guidance, depending on her interpretation. After church, they grocery shopped. Jennifer filled the cart without calculating prices for the first time in her adult life. Lily noticed immediately. Mom, you're buying the name brand cereal. We can afford it. And cookies? The good ones. Yes, honey. Are we rich already? Not yet, but soon. So we're practicing. That evening, Melissa called. Jennifer considered not answering, but knew avoidance would create suspicion. Just checking. You really cleared out the storage unit? Completely. I sent you photos. Yeah, I saw. A lot of junk, like I said. Nothing valuable. Nothing valuable. Good. At least we don't have to deal with any complicated estate stuff. Dorothy died broke, and her junk is gone, and we can all move on. Jennifer listened to her sister dismiss their grandmother's life and legacy with casual cruelty, feeling no guilt about the lie she was maintaining. Melissa didn't deserve half. Hadn't earned it through care or attention or love. Had explicitly rejected the responsibility of managing Dorothy's estate because she'd assumed there was no value worth managing. Yeah, all done. Great. I won't have to think about Dorothy anymore. The call ended. Jennifer sat staring at her phone, thinking about families and obligation and what people deserved versus what they received. Melissa would never know about the jewelry, would never know that her dismissiveness had cost her potentially $90 million, would live her comfortable life, married to a dentist, living in a nice house in a good neighborhood, wanting for nothing material, without ever understanding what she'd lost by being unwilling to spend a few weekends sorting through boxes. Monday morning, Jennifer called in sick to both jobs again. Her manager's responses made clear she was burning bridges. She didn't care. By the time they fired her, and they would fire her eventually, she wouldn't need them. She drove to San Francisco with the jewelry box in a locked briefcase, Lily beside her, because missing another day of school was less important than the meeting that would determine their entire future. Hartman and Associates occupied 3 floors of a building in the financial district. Glass, steel views of the bay. Reception area with furniture that cost more than Jennifer's car. She gave her name to a receptionist who looked at her worn jeans and Target blouse with barely concealed skepticism. Richard Hartman is expecting you. 11th floor, suite 1140. The elevator opened onto offices that screamed old money and established success. Artwork that looked original. Persian rugs. Windows offering views that made you forget you were technically still working in an office building. Richard Hartman met them in a conference room that could seat 20. He was 60-something, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost $5,000. 2 associates flanked him, younger attorneys taking notes, evaluating, calculating. Ms. Morrison, thank you for coming. This must be your daughter. Lily. Lily, there are books and activities in the room next door while your mom and I talk business. Would you like that? Lily looked at Jennifer, who nodded. An associate led her away, leaving Jennifer alone with attorneys who made their living navigating complexity most people never encountered. Show me what you have. Jennifer opened the briefcase, removed the jewelry box, opened the false bottom, laid each piece on the conference table where light from floor-to-ceiling windows made the stones blaze with color that seemed almost alive. The attorney's professional detachment cracked slightly. Hartman picked up the necklace with careful reverence. My God, this is the real thing. Authenticated by Goldstein on 5th Street. The certificates are here. Jennifer produced the documentation. Hartman and his associates examined everything in silence that stretched several minutes. Finally, Hartman set down the papers and looked at Jennifer directly. Ms. Morrison, what you've brought us is extraordinary. Not just in value, though the value is substantial, but in provenance. This collection represents a perfect storm of historical circumstances that will make authentication and sale complex, but ultimately achievable. The law school clinic said the jewelry wasn't stolen. They're correct. We've already done preliminary research based on your call. The pieces you possess were acquired legally during a recognized refugee crisis from foreign nationals who've made no claims for recovery. Chinese government claims were rejected by international precedent. You have clean title, so I can sell it. You can. But Ms. Morrison, selling $189 million in jewelry isn't like selling a car. This will take time, 6 to 8 months minimum. We'll need to complete full authentication through multiple sources, establish clear provenance, prepare the pieces for auction through Christie's or Sotheby's, and manage the inevitable attention that property of this value attracts. What kind of attention? Media interest, potential buyers wanting previews, your family asking questions about sudden wealth, the IRS scrutinizing everything to ensure proper tax payment, every jewelry dealer who's ever lost a major sale wondering where these pieces came from. This will be public, and publicity requires preparation. Jennifer felt anxiety rising. I don't want to be public. Then we'll minimize exposure where possible. Use trusts and corporate structures to maintain privacy. But Ms. Morrison, you can't inherit $189 million and remain anonymous. That's not how wealth at this level works. One of the associates spoke up. We'll protect you as much as we can. Create legal barriers between you personally and the estate. Handle media through controlled statements. But you need to prepare. Your life is about to change fundamentally, and change at this magnitude attracts attention. Hartman continued, Here's what I propose. We take the case on contingency. Our fee is 30% of net proceeds after taxes and expenses. We advance all costs, authentication, insurance, security, auction fees. You pay nothing up front. If the sale succeeds, we take our percentage from proceeds. If it somehow fails, which it won't, you own nothing. 30% of $189 million is roughly $57 million, yes. But you need to understand the numbers. The jewelry will likely sell for between $180 and $200 million at auction, possibly more if bidding is competitive. Federal estate tax is approximately $15 million. Our fee is 30% of what remains after taxes. That's about $50 million to us. Then auction house commissions, authentication costs, insurance, and miscellaneous expenses add another $5 to $7 million. Your net proceeds will be approximately $120 to $130 million. $120 million. Even after everyone took their cut, even after taxes and fees and the countless hands that would touch the money before it reached her, Jennifer would still have more wealth than she dreamed possible. And in the meantime, I have bills, rent. I need to pay back a loan against one of the rings. We'll arrange a bridge loan against the estate. $5 million, available immediately, secured by the jewelry's value. That gives you liquid assets to manage life while we process the sale. The loan gets repaid from auction proceeds. $5 million, available immediately. Jennifer's brain couldn't quite process it. Last week, she'd been scrambling for $2,050. Today, she was being offered $5 million as a temporary loan. What I need to do? Sign our representation agreement. Transfer the jewelry to our custody for secure storage and authentication. Provide complete documentation about your grandmother, her mother, the acquisition circumstances. Then wait while we handle the complex work of preparing everything for sale. They spent the next 2 hours reviewing paperwork. Jennifer signed document after document, creating legal structures she barely understood but trusted because Hartman explained them in terms that made sense. A trust to hold the estate, a corporate entity to handle the sale, privacy protections that would keep her name out of public records where possible. By noon, the jewelry was in Hartman's custody, secured in a vault that required 3 separate people to access. Jennifer received a receipt and a promise that insurance coverage exceeding the jewelry's estimated value had been activated immediately. Ms. Morrison, one final thing. We strongly recommend you maintain your current lifestyle for now. Continue working, living in your apartment, operating as you always have. Sudden lifestyle changes before the sale completes create questions and attention. After the auction, after the money is in your account, then you can make whatever changes you want. But until then, stay under the radar. Jennifer nodded. I understand. And Ms. Morrison? Congratulations. You're about to become extraordinarily wealthy. That comes with opportunities and obligations. Use it wisely. In the elevator down, Lily was quiet. Finally, she spoke. Mom, what just happened? We started the process of selling Grandma Dorothy's jewelry. And then we'll be rich? In about 6 months, yes. What are we going to do until then? Jennifer thought about Hartman's advice. Maintain current lifestyle. Stay under the radar. Live as though nothing had changed until everything had actually changed. We're going to keep being us. Same apartment, same life, same everything. But knowing that it won't always be this way. That seems hard. It will be. But we can do hard things. The bridge loan appeared in Jennifer's bank account Tuesday morning. Not $5 million. That would have required too much explanation. Instead, $50,000 wired from Hartman and Associates trust account with a memo reading estate advance per agreement. Jennifer stared at her phone at the banking app showing a balance she'd never imagined. $50,000. More than she earned in a year from both jobs combined. Sitting in her account, available immediately. She paid back Goldstein first. $10,500 including interest, wire that same day. The jeweler called within hours. Ms. Morrison, you paid off the loan? Already. Things moved faster than expected. I see. Well, congratulations. The ring is yours again. Would you like me to send it to you? Keep it for now. I'll collect it when everything's finalized. Understood. And Ms. Morrison? I'm glad you found good representation. You're going to do well. After paying Goldstein, Jennifer had $39,500 remaining from the advance. She paid 3 months rent ahead, $550 total. The apartment manager looked shocked. Paying ahead? You never pay ahead. Financial situation improved. Well, good. Maybe now you can fix that brake light before you get another ticket. Jennifer paid the outstanding brake light ticket, $125. Fixed the brake light, $80. Got an oil change the car desperately needed, $60. Bought Lily new shoes, new clothes, new backpack, $300. Restocked groceries without calculating prices, $200. In 2 days, she spent nearly $7,000 with barely a thought. Money that would have represented months of careful saving suddenly felt almost disposable. But Hartman's warning echoed. Maintain current lifestyle. Don't attract attention. Jennifer kept working both jobs, though her heart wasn't in it. Stocking shelves at the grocery store felt surreal when she knew she had $32,000 sitting in her bank account and $120 million coming in 6 months. Cleaning offices at night felt almost absurd. Her managers noticed the change. You seem distracted lately. Just tired. I'll focus better. But she couldn't. Her mind was 6 months ahead, imagining houses with pools, cars that didn't make concerning noises, a life where Lily never again had to choose birthday gifts based on price. 3 weeks into the authentication process, Hartman called with an update. Initial authentication is complete. Christie's confirms all pieces are genuine, properly attributed, and historically significant. They're recommending a special evening sale. Treasures from the Chinese diaspora, a personal collection. Estimated auction date is May 15th. That gives us time to complete provenance documentation and build interest among potential buyers. 6 months. Like you said. Exactly. Ms. Morrison, Christie's preliminary estimate is $195 to $210 million total. Higher than our initial projection. Apparently, there's substantial collector interest in jewelry from this specific period. Your pieces represent some of the finest examples of 1940s European luxury craft, with the added historical significance of the Chinese refugee connection. $210 million. The number kept growing. What do I do now? Keep living your life. We'll handle everything else. I'll send monthly updates. The auction will require your presence. You'll need to be in New York for the sale. But otherwise, your job is to wait patiently and resist the urge to make changes before the money is real. Waiting proved harder than Jennifer expected. Christmas approached, and everywhere she looked, people spent money on things that were suddenly, theoretically, accessible to her. Decorations, gifts, travel, experiences, all still out of reach because the money wasn't actually hers yet. Wouldn't be hers for months. Lily made a Christmas list, modest by most standards, but still beyond what Jennifer could actually afford from current income. Art supplies, books, a bicycle, a trip to Disneyland. We'll see, honey. But you said we'd have money. We will. Just not yet. When? May. After the auction. That's so far away. It was an eternity of living between poverty and wealth, of knowing prosperity was coming but unable to access it, of watching others spend freely while she still calculated every dollar. Melissa called in December, her voice carrying forced cheerfulness. Just checking in. How are you and Lily doing? The question felt loaded. Jennifer's guard went up immediately. We're fine. What? No reason. I heard from a friend who knows someone at Stanford. Apparently, there was some inquiry about Dorothy's estate. Something about legal research. Jennifer's blood went cold. Someone had talked. Someone at the law clinic had mentioned the case to someone who'd mentioned it to someone else until it reached Melissa. Just clarifying some minor inheritance issues. Nothing significant. What kind of issues? Paperwork. Making sure everything was properly handled. Jennifer, if there's something valuable, I have a right to know. I'm Dorothy's granddaughter, too. There's nothing valuable. You saw the storage unit. It was all junk. Then why involve lawyers? Because some of the junk had paperwork that needed proper disposal. That's all. Silence on the other end. Melissa didn't believe her. Jennifer, if you're hiding something, I'm not hiding anything. There's nothing to hide. Dorothy died poor, and her estate was junk, and I'm just making sure everything is closed properly. More silence. Then, fine. But if I find out you lied to me, if there's money you're keeping from me, I will sue you for my half. Don't think I won't. The call ended. Jennifer sat shaking, anger and fear mixing into something that tasted like bile. Melissa didn't deserve half. Hadn't earned it. Had explicitly rejected responsibility for Dorothy's estate. But if she found out about the jewelry before the sale completed, she could create legal complications that would delay everything, potentially for years. Jennifer called Hartman immediately. My sister is asking questions. She heard something about legal research related to my grandmother's estate. How did she hear that? Someone from the law school clinic must have talked. Word got around. Hartman's voice turned sharp. That's a hippie equivalent violation for legal clinics. I'll contact Stanford. But Ms. Morrison, this is why we structured everything through trusts and corporate entities. Your sister can ask questions, but legally she has no standing. The jewelry was never part of any documented estate. Your grandmother held it privately, never declared it, never included it in any will. It passed to you outside probate. Your sister has no legal claim. She said she'd sue. Let her. She'll lose. But I recommend cutting contact until after the auction. Don't answer her calls. Don't engage. The less you say, the fewer opportunities she has to gather information or build a case. Jennifer followed his advice. When Melissa called again, she let it go to voicemail. When Melissa texted, she didn't respond. When Melissa showed up at her apartment, actually drove across town and buzzed her intercom, Jennifer didn't answer the door. Lily found the tension confusing. Why won't you talk to Aunt Melissa? Because she's asking questions I can't answer yet. About the jewelry? Yes. But why can't you tell her? How did you explain to a 9-year-old that some family members would take what wasn't theirs given the opportunity? That sharing information with the wrong person could cost you everything? That sometimes love and obligation and blood connection mattered less than protecting what you'd inherited through actual care and presence? Because Aunt Melissa would want half, and she doesn't deserve half. She didn't take care of Grandma Dorothy. She didn't even visit her. We did. We earned this. She didn't. Lily processed this with the seriousness of a child learning that adult relationships were more complicated than simple fairness. But she's family. Family isn't just blood, honey. It's showing up. It's caring. Aunt Melissa didn't show up, so she doesn't get to benefit now. Winter blurred into spring. Jennifer kept working, kept living in the same apartment, kept maintaining the appearance of normalcy, while everything internal had shifted. The anticipation was exhausting, like being pregnant with possibility, knowing that eventually something would be born, but unable to hurry the process. In March, Hartman sent a formal invitation. The auction would be May 15th at Christie's, New York. Jennifer and Lily should plan to attend. Hotel accommodations would be arranged and paid from estate funds. This was history, Hartman explained. Watching your inheritance sell for $200 million was something you'd want to witness. Jennifer requested time off from both jobs. Both managers denied the request. She quit both jobs immediately. Without notice? You're burning bridges. I don't need the bridges anymore. Her managers looked confused by the confidence in her voice. Jennifer walked out of both places without looking back, feeling lighter than she had in years. Lily was ecstatic. You quit? Both jobs? But what about money? We have enough to get to the auction. After that, we'll have more than enough. They flew to New York the day before the sale. First class, Jennifer's first time ever. Lily pressed her face to the window, watching clouds pass below, drinking juice from actual glass glasses, eating food that didn't come from a bag. Is this what rich people do all the time? I guess so. It's weird, but nice. The hotel was in Manhattan. Not the nicest hotel. Hartman had been strategic about not drawing attention, but nice enough that Jennifer felt like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. Room service. Concierge. Views of Central Park from their window. That evening, Hartman took them to dinner. An Italian restaurant where the menu didn't list prices and the waiter treated Jennifer like she belonged. Tomorrow is life-changing. Hartman said over wine. Jennifer still felt strange drinking. Are you ready? I don't know. How do you get ready for something like this? You don't. You just experience it. Let me walk you through what happens. The auction starts at 7 p.m. Your collection is the evening's centerpiece, 12 lots total. Each piece will be shown, described, and bid on. Bidding starts at reserve price and goes until no one is willing to go higher. The process will take 2 to 3 hours. After, you'll sign paperwork transferring ownership to the winning bidders. Money will be wired to the estate account within 48 hours. And then we settle all accounts. Pay taxes, pay our fee, pay all expenses. The remaining balance, which we project to be approximately $125 million, transfers to you personally. At that point, Ms. Morrison, you can do whatever you want. Buy houses, cars, take vacations, invest, donate, live however you choose. You'll be extraordinarily wealthy, and that wealth will be completely, legitimately yours. That night, Jennifer couldn't sleep. Lay in a hotel bed that cost more per night than she used to spend on food in a week, staring at ceilings, processing everything that had led here. Dorothy dying alone, the storage unit, the jewelry box, the false bottom, Lynn May's letter, the authentication, the legal complexities, 6 months of waiting. Tomorrow it all became real. The auction house on Christie's was exactly what Jennifer expected from movies, but had never actually experienced. Elegant, hushed, full of people wearing clothes that cost more than she used to earn in months. Hartman guided them to seats in the second row, close enough to see everything, far enough back to maintain slight anonymity. The room filled with collectors, dealers, museum representatives, people whose interest in jewelry at this level was either professional or indicated wealth beyond Jennifer's new comprehension. She recognized no one, but everyone seemed to know each other, greeting familiar faces, making small talk that probably involved millions of dollars discussed as casually as weather. At 7 p.m. exactly, the auctioneer took the podium. Good evening. Welcome to Christie's Spring Evening Sale. Tonight we feature an extraordinary collection, treasures from the Chinese diaspora. 12 pieces of exceptional jewelry acquired during the 1940s refugee crisis, preserved for 75 years, and now being offered publicly for the first time. We begin with Lot 147, a Cartier necklace, platinum, 147 carats, circa 1948. An assistant brought out the necklace on a velvet display. Overhead, lighting made the stones explode with color. Gasps rippled through the audience. We opened bidding at $8 million. Do I have $8 million? Paddles went up. Jennifer's heart hammered. $8 million, $9 million, $10 million, $12 million. The numbers climbed with a speed that felt surreal. Jennifer watched paddles rise and fall, watched the auctioneer's practiced rhythm, watched the price climb past $20 million, past $30 million, past $40 million. $43 million. Do I have 44? $44 million. 45. Going once at $45 million. Going twice. Sold for $45 million to paddle 237. Applause. The necklace alone had sold for $45 million. More than double the original estimate. The auction continued. Each piece exceeded expectations. The ring went for $12 million. The earrings for $18 million. The bracelet for $27 million. Smaller pieces brought between $3 and $8 million each. By 9:30 p.m., when the final lot sold, the total was staggering, $214 million. Jennifer sat in stunned silence while the audience applauded. Hartman leaned over, his voice carrying barely contained excitement. Congratulations, Ms. Morrison. You just became one of the wealthiest women in America. The paperwork took another hour. Jennifer signed documents transferring ownership, acknowledged receipt of payment, confirmed tax identification numbers. Christie's representatives congratulated her. Other auction attendees tried to make conversation, clearly curious about the mysterious consignor of such extraordinary property. Hartman ran interference. Ms. Morrison doesn't give interviews. Please respect her privacy. They left through a side exit, avoiding the lingering crowd, and returned to the hotel where Jennifer finally allowed herself to process what had happened. $214 million. After estate taxes, $16 million. Hartman's fee, $59 million. Auction fees, $21 million. And various expenses, $3 million. Jennifer would net approximately $115 million. $115 million. In her bank account. Hers. The money transferred Wednesday morning. Jennifer checked her banking app obsessively until finally, at 11:07 a.m., the balance updated. $115 million. She stared at her phone, at numbers that didn't look real, at a comma followed by so many zeros her brain couldn't quite process them as currency. Lily looked over her shoulder. "Mom, is that real?" "Yes, baby. That's real. We're rich. We're rich." Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Can we get a pool now?" Jennifer laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. "Yes, honey. We could get a pool. We could get anything you want." They stayed in New York for 3 more days. Jennifer wanted Lily to experience the city properly, not as tourists scraping by, but as people who could afford things. They went to Broadway shows, ate at restaurants where meals cost what Jennifer used to earn in a week, shopped at stores she'd only seen in magazines. Lily was overwhelmed and delighted by turns. "Mom, this is crazy. We couldn't afford any of this last week." "I know, and now we can afford everything. Pretty much. It's weird. It was weird. Walking through stores where nothing had price tags because the prices were so high they'd scare away anyone who had to ask. Buying clothes that fit perfectly, were made from materials Jennifer had never worn, would last years instead of months. Saying yes to experiences without calculating cost. On the flight home, first class again, Lily fell asleep against Jennifer's shoulder. Jennifer watched her daughter sleep and felt overwhelming gratitude mixed with residual fear. Gratitude for Lynn May, who'd somehow acquired jewelry valuable enough to transform her descendants' lives 75 years later. Gratitude for Dorothy, who'd hidden it and preserved it even if she'd never known its value. Gratitude for the lawyers and authenticators and auctioneers who'd turned hidden property into legitimate wealth. But also fear. Fear that she'd mismanaged this. Fear that sudden wealth would corrupt rather than improve their lives. Fear that Lily would grow up spoiled and disconnected from the struggles that had shaped Jennifer's character. Back in California, Jennifer's first purchase was practical. She hired a financial advisor recommended by Hartman, someone who specialized in sudden wealth, who understood the psychology and practical reality of going from poverty to fortune in 6 months. His name was David Chen, another Chen. The universe apparently had a theme. He was 40-something, calm, spoke in terms that made sense. "Ms. Morrison, the most important thing is not to rush. You have $115 million. That's enough money that you never have to worry about finances again if you manage it reasonably. But it's also possible to lose money at this level if you make poor decisions." They spent 3 days structuring Jennifer's finances. Most of the money went into diversified investments, stocks, bonds, real estate, a portfolio that would generate approximately $4 million annually in passive income, even if she never touched the principal. She kept $15 million liquid for immediate use. Buying a house, cars, setting up trusts for Lily's education and future, making donations to causes that mattered. The house search took 2 weeks. Jennifer knew what she wanted. Comfortable, but not ostentatious. Nice neighborhood, good schools, pool for Lily, space for a life that felt normal even if the circumstances weren't. She found it in a suburb 40 minutes from their old apartment. For bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, landscaped yard with a pool. The kind of house she'd driven past her whole life, assuming she'd never live in. It cost $2.8 million. She paid cash. Moving day felt surreal. Jennifer stood in the empty house, her house, owned outright, no mortgage, and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming reality that struggle had ended. That the constant calculation, the perpetual anxiety, the grinding pressure of never having enough had been replaced by security, so complete it felt almost frightening. Lily ran through the rooms, claiming her bedroom, planning furniture, imagining the life they'd build here. Can Madison come over? Can we have a pool party? Yes, honey. We could do all of that. Jennifer called Kate that afternoon. Hi, it's Jennifer, Lily's mom. I want to let you know we've moved. Oh, where to? Jennifer gave the address. Silence on the other end. That's the Willows development. Those houses are expensive. Yes, my financial situation changed significantly. More silence. Then, carefully, Jennifer's, everything okay? You quit both your jobs, disappeared for 2 weeks, and now you're living in a $3 million house. That's concerning. Jennifer understood the subtext. People who experience sudden financial transformation usually did so through windfalls that weren't entirely legal. Inheritance from a grandmother everyone thought died, poor could look suspicious. I inherited property from my grandmother. Sold it at auction. Everything was legal and properly managed. I have documentation if you're concerned. I'm not concerned, just surprised. Good surprised. Madison will be thrilled Lily's in the same school district. They enrolled Lily in Madison's school, a private academy that cost $35,000 annually. Last year, that number would have been impossible. Today, it was less than Jennifer earned in investment income in a week. Melissa learned about Jennifer's situation through social media. Someone had posted photos from the Christie's auction, carefully cropped to avoid identifying Jennifer directly, but tagged with enough information that anyone looking could figure it out. Melissa called. Jennifer answered, finally, because avoiding her forever wasn't sustainable. You lied to me. No preamble. Pure anger. You said there was nothing valuable. You said Dorothy died poor. But you inherited jewelry worth $200 million and kept it all for yourself. The jewelry wasn't part of Dorothy's documented estate. It was hidden, never declared. I found it by accident. That doesn't matter. I'm her granddaughter too. I have a right to half. You have a right to nothing. You didn't take care of her, didn't visit, didn't help. You wanted nothing to do with her estate because you assumed there was no value. You don't get to change your mind now that there's money. I'll sue you. Go ahead. My lawyers assure me you have no case. The jewelry passed outside probate, was never documented as part of any estate, and went to me as the person who actually took responsibility for Dorothy's affairs. You'll waste money on attorneys and lose. I can't believe you do this. We're family. Family shows up, Melissa. You didn't. This conversation is over. Jennifer hung up. Melissa did eventually sue, filed papers claiming she was entitled to half of the auction proceeds. Hartman handled it efficiently. The case was dismissed within 3 months. Melissa had no legal standing, and the judge made clear that inheritance didn't split automatically between grandchildren when one grandchild had explicitly rejected responsibility for estate management. Summer arrived. Jennifer and Lily settled into their new life with a strange combination of familiarity and surrealism that came from suddenly having everything they'd always wanted. They traveled, first to Hawaii, then Europe, experiencing the world in ways Jennifer had only imagined. They donated $5 million to organizations supporting refugees and immigrants, honoring Lynn May's story. They invested in Lily's future, trust for education, business ventures, whatever she might want to pursue. But they also maintained groundedness. Lily still did chores, still had limits on screen time and junk food, still was expected to be kind, considerate, aware that her wealth was extraordinary and not normal. Why do I have to do chores if we can afford to hire people? Lily asked after Jennifer insisted she clean her room. Because doing things yourself teaches you their value. Because people who grow up having everything done for them become helpless. Because I don't want you to be a spoiled rich kid. But I am rich. You have access to money. That's different from being defined by money. You're still Lily Morrison. You're still the girl who picked birthday gifts based on price tags and wore hand-me-down clothes and learned to be resourceful. Money doesn't change that unless you let it. In September, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a photograph. Old, faded, but clear enough to see the faces. Lynn May Chun, young, beautiful, wearing one of the necklaces. Jennifer had sold, standing beside a Western man in a suit. Behind them, a building that looked official, governmental. On the back, in faded ink, Guangzhou, 1948. Payment rendered. Services completed. May this purchase freedom for those who follow. Jennifer stared at the photograph for a long time, understanding finally. Lin May hadn't stolen the jewelry. She'd earned it. Whatever services she provided, translation, espionage, assistance to foreigners trying to escape communist China, she'd been paid in jewelry because currency wasn't portable or trustworthy. She'd risked everything to acquire it, had hidden it rather than use it, because using it would have drawn attention, had given it to Dorothy not as wealth, but as insurance, as a last resort, as a promise that survival was possible if circumstances became desperate. 75 years later, that promise had come due. Jennifer framed the photograph and hung it in her office, a reminder of where the money came from, of the courage that had preserved it, of the responsibility that came with inheriting not just wealth, but the story that created it. That evening, she and Lily sat by their pool in their house, in their life. The sun set over water that reflected orange and pink and gold. Lily practiced swimming while Jennifer watched, thinking about journeys and generations and the ways people took care of each other across time. Her phone buzzed. Text from Kate. Pool party at your place next Saturday? The girls have been asking. Bring wine. Lots of wine. Jennifer texted back. Absolutely. See you then. She looked at Lily, at the house, at the life they'd built from a jewelry box discovered in a storage unit, at wealth that had transformed everything while changing nothing essential. They were still themselves, still the same people who'd struggled and survived and learned to be resourceful. Just now, in a bigger house, with a pool, with security that meant Lily would never have to choose birthday gifts based on price tags. Mom, Lily called from the pool. Come swim with me. Jennifer stood, pulled off her shirt, dove in. The water was warm, perfect, everything a pool should be. Worth it, she thought. All of it. The struggle, the discovery, the complications, the anxiety. Everything that had brought them here. Worth it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.